Hi everyone, and welcome to Volunteer Workbook Overview. My name is Marge Lobeck, and I'm a Manager of Programs with Kesem. I'm going to walk you through your fiscal year 2019 Volunteer Coordinator Workbook. This is an opportunity for you as a volunteer coordinator to get acquainted with your resources available to you and the workbook in general before your program director arrives for fall training. Before watching this video, you should have already watched Volunteer 101 to understand your role, and additionally, you should be working through or have already finished your homework before your program director arrives. So, first, where does your workbook live and how do you access it? In order to access the Volunteer Coordinator Workbook, you must be logged into your official Camp Kesem Chapter email account. Remember, any devices, phone, computer, tablet, used to access this account must be password protected. You will not be able to access or edit your workbook from a personal email, and any request for access from a personal email will be denied. Also, what's the point of a workbook? And why should I fill them out? Great question. As I mentioned in the last video, putting on camp is like managing a long-term project with a ton of short-term goals. So your chapter workbook is the ultimate project management tool, meant to help you stay organized and on track throughout the year. Therefore, it's important to fill out your workbook fully and thoroughly, both for you this year and for your chapter in future years. Workbooks are a source of historical knowledge for your chapter, where future coordinators can see firsthand what worked and what didn't work. It's also a way to track growth and see how far your organization has come. What will you find in your workbooks? Among other things, your workbook includes a dashboard, which provides you progress towards goals at a glance, a to-do tracker, your standards, and direct access to the central resources table. So without further ado, let's open up the workbook. This first tab is your Volunteer Coordinator dashboard. Everything here updates automatically from other tabs in the workbook, and this tab is actually locked. Down at the bottom left, you can notice the lock symbol next to dashboard, so you won't be able to edit it directly. Your coordinator dashboard is linked to the co-director dashboard so that everyone's progress can roll up to the directors and they can better manage you. Next, you'll find the Contents and Resources tab at the bottom next to Dashboard. Here you'll find descriptions of each of the tabs in your workbook and their functions. Definitely read through these to familiarize yourself to refer to this tab throughout the year if you ever forget what a certain tab is for. At the top, you can click on the Central Resources table. A little link will pop up as shown right here on the left, and this will bring you to all of your resources that you could possibly need or want to go through. Let's click on it just to see what it says. So you'll see this first tab is What's New. This is new, and this will be updated in real time. You'll see at the bottom right the last time it was updated with resources that are coming throughout the year. The second one is the Tools and Apps tab. This is predominantly for you to see any apps or things that are coming out from Kesem in general to utilize for your chapter. And then for you, most importantly, you have access to everybody else's tabs, which is going to be helpful for you should you need any of their resources, but you will predominantly live in the Volunteer Coordinator tab. You'll see if you are familiar with the Central Resources table from the past that it's framed a little bit differently. You'll see a resource map that was created to help all Kesem student leaders find what they're looking for more easily, so you don't have to sift through every single resource that you come upon. Let's hop back into the workbook and go through that together, and then we'll go through the Central Resources table resources together as well. So you'll see this tab is the to-do tracker. Everything highlighted in yellow does roll up and should be filled out by you. So you'll put your name up here, and then to-do tracker standards are new this year as noted. So you will not be editing the points right here. All that you'll have to do is mark yes or no. As we scroll down, you'll see the monthly tasks that are going to be asked of you, so you'll mark yes or no for those as well. And then you'll see broken down into trimester the to-do items that have been listed for you. You are more than welcome to add into your workbook different lines. Just make sure not to put them in between the green and white line or the green and white line down here in order to make sure the formulas roll up correctly. As mentioned before, standards changed a little bit this year. So you have your to-do tracker standards, which are on the other tab, and then you also have the Aam Member Standards, just to remind you right here when and how they apply. All coordinator standards will apply to all coordinators, and then you'll have your specific volunteer coordinator standards listed right here. These are standards that your chapter will be graded on every single trimester. These in particular will be graded by your program director. All member standards will be graded by your directors. And then, like I mentioned, the to-do tracker standards will roll up once they are marked as yes, no, or completed late. The recruitment goal tabs is is here for you in general to go through with your program director at the beginning of the year to really understand more thoroughly how many counselors you're going to need for camp. As stated before, we need between a 2-to-1 ratio and a 3-to-1 ratio. We don't want too many counselors at camp, and we also don't want too few where our campers are in an unsafe situation. Also on the left-hand side, you'll see that depending on the age of your campers, you do need counselors that are a certain age. So this will help you break down in general how many people you'll need from a certain age group as well for your week of camp. If you do have 2 weeks of camp, you'll see that you have 2 separate sections. If you only have 1 week of camp, don't worry about it. That does not need to be filled out. The next tab, and there's 2 of them, you'll see 1 per week of camp. So if you have only 1 week of camp, don't delete the second tab, just let it be or hide it. You don't need to use it. So this is where you're going to be tracking all of your counselors that are coming to camp and other people that are going to be coming to camp, like the photographer, and ensure that their training is done, that their CPR first aid certification is done if they're a unit leader or admin member, that they've turned in their CPR certification and staff health history form, and additionally where your PD will check off whether or not they've completed their background check. This is really a tracking tool for you as well. One of the standards for you is that you include the date of trainings at least 1 month before your first training, so then you have 1 month to notify people to show up. That will be in line 5. This is exactly where you should be putting the date that it's going to be held. In the other video, I also mentioned that this year we're moving towards trying to have more than just counselors at training. If it's applicable, Kesem members in general should be there, whether they're a general body member or a committee member if they're interested. So you'll see up here in bold and italics and with a note that if you should be inviting other people to this training, it'll be noted right here. Additionally, you'll see that there are certain facilitators that drop down here that you can have lead those trainings. So it doesn't always have to be you, doesn't always have to be the directors, so long as those people complete the, what is it called? The counselor training certification, then you'll be good to go. Just a friendly reminder too that you don't have to click all these individually. You can also, if you see this little box down here at the bottom right, you can drag it as well if you want to complete more than one at a time, just to save you a little bit of time. So moving on to the important contacts tab, this tab is supposed to be used for you to track any important contacts that have helped you recruit over the course of the year for volunteers, for other helpful people that you have gotten in contact with to support your chapter. An example could be a professor that sent out the general body member email listserv to anybody in their class or something like that, just so in future years, future volunteer coordinators can utilize this information and you can track how they've received the information that you've sent out. Finally, this last tab is a little bit new. If you were an AMP coordinator, it looks a little bit similar to that tab as well. But this year, within our resources, what you'll see is this new Kesem member contact information form. This is something that we're going to be asking all Kesem members to fill out just once. And once they fill it out, this is specially programmed to autofill with any members that sign up for your chapter. Instead of doing all of the coordinator tabs the committee tabs that we used to have in the past, we're going to just maintain all Kesem members here. And over here on the right, the great thing is that it also mentions, who they are, what their information is, so you can continue to steward them even after they're long graduated, and then also how they'd like to be involved. So if you have 500 people signing up at a student org fair, signing up through this form, one, we can maintain all that information on Kesem side, and also you'll have access to it here and be able to steward them a little bit more thoroughly. We're going to hop back into the central resources table like we mentioned above. That's the complete overview of your workbook, but I want to highlight a few things from the resources that you have access to. One of them is the Committees and General Body Resource Guide. This is kind of your one-stop shop in terms of understanding how to inform the structure of your students. And right here what you'll see is that what we're looking for is below all the coordinators is that there are certain task force committees to ensure that they take your chapter to the next level. What we are recommending actually is that general body members have a once-a-month meeting, which includes bonding and a few other things that you'll find in another resource. And then every other week you have committee members who meet and fulfill the role of a certain task force. Again, if you have a different structure, that's totally fine. Just talk to your program director about it. But this resource has been specifically designed in order to give you the tools to make task force committees really, really successful. So as you onboard people to Kesem, I think what we typically find is that they sign up and then maybe they never hear from you, or maybe they don't receive the training that they need to do their job. So here's a welcome email for you to send out that includes also our confidentiality and standards agreement, which we are going to be requiring that they watch this year and then sign. So they better understand those all member standards that we were talking about that even they have to abide by. Additionally, there's just some brief resources to get them started, how to pitch Kesem, sign up for the listserv I was just telling you about, and get the ball rolling. As you keep going, it talks about how to set up a committee, how to manage a committee, how to recruit for a committee, and then ultimately provides resources on a task force committee. And the point of task forces is that, say you start the Kesem by Your Side task force, and a recommended time frame for that could be October 1 to December 15th. And here are items that they can work on, and then here are just general goals to make sure that you're hitting those committee, successes that you were really hoping for. If you don't like this, that's totally fine. If you want to do it your own way, that's totally fine. Just make sure to inform your program director and really think about ways that you can leverage committees to make them feel valued, to train them, to make them feel like they want to stick around, especially after you pick counselors, because that's one of the biggest challenges that we see. Another one of your resources is the Recruitment Recognition and Meetings Guide. This has templates upon templates. It has ideas. It also has, in general, that we're trying to move towards, as you heard me say, hopefully Kesem members rather than Camp Kesem members, in order to be even more inclusive of people that don't attend camp. There's additional ideas about how to market that here. Also, recruiting on campus, how to get involved at your student org fair, and then towards the bottom, you'll find a lot of recommendations for your meetings, for your email listservs, and other items like that. Counselor Applications and Interviews Guide is also here. We are recommending, again, that you do a rubric for counselors as they're being interviewed, predominantly just so we can make sure that we're having an equitable experience for everyone and that you are discussing your counselor decisions and can stand by them as well to say that we're going to pick the best people for the job. So there's additional resources in here, including the interview template and the questions that you can and should be asking. And I just want to highlight as well that you should definitely be interviewing returning counselors, either to both give them feedback and ensure that they're on board for next year and reset expectations, because all returning counselors should have the same expectations that new counselors do as well, to support the organization, be involved, show up to trainings. It walks you through the Councillor Rubric, which is a little bit different, but it all outlines here. In general, we're going to get rid of the grading system of 0 to 4 and really basically say that per question, were they positively qualified for this? Did they have something that might make them negatively qualified for this? And if 0, because you can't make a decision on their qualifications, that's totally fine. And then you'll walk through your decisions with your program director. This additionally talks through rejections in general, and that's something that we want to handle really, really delicately. So make sure to talk to your program director about that. And then this is the resource that I mentioned in the other video for all Kesem members. This can be shared with advisory board members, committee members in general, but really we want to prepare students to have access to the things that you have access to. And I know it can be frustrating as a coordinator to have to start from scratch with the committee members you want to do the work, and maybe it might feel like it's easier for you to do it instead of them. But what we'd really like to see is that you provide them with this as a starting point, and it has a few templates. It explains the structure of Kesem, talks about how to pitch Kesem. In general, we'd love for them to start here to be the best advocate for this organization possible, and hopefully takes a little bit off of you in terms of how to ensure that they're implementing our policies correctly, and additionally that they have access to templates for in-kind donations or other things like that to make sure that they're making your chapter as successful as possible. So that's just highlighting a few of the resources. Obviously, you have a significant number of other ones in here. Expert Online Training, which is the online training program that counselors will need to complete to attend camp. Also the Kesem Central Guide, which is where counselors will apply for camp, and then you'll be kind of working within that system to manage that. And then additionally, the Facebook group, if you'd like to join it and discuss with your peers things that have been working and not working. Any questions can be directed to your chapter directors. Otherwise, thanks for listening.